So now we have torpedo bombers, we have dive bombers, and we have attack planes with unguided rockets. That's the third one is something that we didn't have before. Before we also had fighter planes, which just focused on air-to-air combat, and we've actually removed those from direct control for a player, and we've replaced them with an active ability for the other squadrons. So you kind of lose direct control of fighters, so there's going to be less of air supremacy type of gameplay, which we have right now in the game, but there's going to be a type of gameplay that's similar to using wards, for example, in MOBA games, where you have an ability that allows you to place some sort of entity on the map that provides either damage or visibility for you and your team. So that will allow us also to focus a bit on the actual plane versus ship gameplay that we really want to nail down first, and then maybe we'll revisit the option of adding players' control over fighters again, if it's possible. And if it works well as an ability, it will stay that way. In terms of the differences between the squadrons themselves, so torpedo bombers, obviously you have one or two torpedoes strapped beneath a plane, and those are going to be dropped at enemy ships. The difference is that the attack run for those is relatively long, so you have to plan far in advance. They do deal a lot of damage, but they're relatively slow. So when you drop the torpedo into the water, it needs to reach its target. And the target obviously will be maneuvering, so there is a possibility to evade that. So you need to plan it really carefully. If you hit, you have a satisfactory damage number appear, and that's fine. The dive bombers themselves, those are planes that basically dive at an enemy ship from a high altitude position, and they just drop a bomb. Those are, they will deal less damage than the torpedoes, and they will not cause flooding, obviously, but they can cause fires as well. And it's a bit easier to hit ships that are not maneuvering, that are very slow. And then we have the attack planes, which we didn't have before. Those have unguided rockets, so they basically have a few of those strapped beneath each wing. And when you attack, they launch all of those into an area that you designate with your targeting reticle. And the key point there is that those will not deal a lot of damage, because even historically they didn't have a large payload of explosives. But it's going to be much easier to hit fast-moving and maneuvering targets with them. So small things like destroyers, you'll be wanting to use attack planes to kind of try to hit them with your rocket salvos and to set them on fire and kind of whittle down their health with these rockets as you do each attack run. When you do attack runs with squadrons, you might have like 10 or 12 planes in your squadron, but not all of them will actually attack at each time. There's going to be a wing that detaches from the squadron, and that wing will do the attack run per se. So after it's done, it's expended its payload, it's going to fly back to your carrier, and you're going to be left with the rest of your squadron, which you can freely use to either attack and harass the same target, or to fly off and probably try to damage another target. For example, if you're using high explosive bombs, you'll be wanting to set one battleship on fire, for example, and then fly to the next battleship, set him on fire, and while the fire is burning, they'll be like gradually losing hit points and taking damage over time. So right now in the kind of RTS gameplay that we have, AA is just a value basically that has like a damage per second indicator, and that has some sort of chance to hit the planes that are being controlled by the carrier player. We want to change that a little bit. So right now also the whole squadron of airplanes has one damage indicator, so it's either hit or not hit. And in the new prototype that we're testing, we've given each individual plane a damage model and a damage indicator. So each plane will be taking damage as it flies through enemy flak, and as it takes small arms fire, the closer it gets to an actual enemy ship. And the player controlling that ship will be able to prioritize zones where the AA effect or the AA fire will intensify. So that means that when you see an enemy airplane squadron approaching you, you will have two choices. You will have the choice to maneuver, depending on where you are on the map, what other enemies you're facing, and where that airplane squadron is coming from. So you can maneuver into them, for example, to be able to take a torpedo spread, for example, head on and just drive right through them in the middle. And then you'll be able to prioritize which sector of your ship you want the AA to focus on. So for example, you can turn sharp right with your ship to avoid the torpedo spread, and then focus your AA on the left side, so if they fly over your ship and try to do it from the other side, they will encounter heavier fire, for example. Those are very nuanced choices that players will have to figure out for themselves, like how to counterplay these aircraft maneuvers, and also for carrier players to figure out how to avoid getting shot down before you actually launch your payload. And the part of that gameplay is also risk management on the part of the carrier player, because he'll need to decide whether he wants to, for example, drop very early but very far to avoid most of the AA fire, or try to, brave it and fly through the flak and avoid it, and then potentially deal more damage, but take the risk that he might not hit a well-maneuvering target that has a good sense of where he should prioritize his AA fire.